like in how many years of patience, it's still patience, and it just patience requires even more patience and tolerance
Mm,
and understanding. And as I'm not a family member in your situation, but I can see how frustrating that is
yeah.
to you and
Mm,
to the other families that I have relationships with and care about. And yeah, you want to be able to give grace, but at the same time,
yes.
doesn't feel equitable. So, things like that, they frustrate me an awful lot. The system, the red tape, the endless delay tactics, the obfuscation of it all. It's like we should be on the same side. Like we all want the same thing. So like why does it have to be contentious? It
Right.
shouldn't be.
No, no. I 100%. I felt that way so many times where I just
Yeah.
don't understand why it feels like we're against each other. We should be working together and
So true. There's many benefits of building solid relationships with law enforcement. There's beauty in that. That when it's happening, it's full of trust and concern and empathy. But when it's not there, you can't just sit on your hands. You have to fight.
Mhm.
And you know, so building great relationships is important. Even if it's just a mutually respectful relationship. But sometimes you just have to kick the bee's nest. And that's a lot of what I've done when no one else was being snarky about it, especially in the Gilgo Beach case, that I would post really just like snarky tweets and
Mhm.
stuff, tagging Suffolk County Police Department or the district attorneys, and like you got to not worry about ducks crossing the road. You got to worry about the bodies along the beach and solve these crimes. So sometimes you just have to fight a little bit. I saw a post on Facebook a few years ago of a missing black teenager. She was 16 when she went missing in 1982. And from Harlem. I had lived in Harlem for 2 decades, so it's in a way it's a home to me.
Mhm.
And this family had nowhere else to go. They were denied police reports. They were told there were police reports when in fact there never were. They were told back then that she's probably hanging out with a boyfriend. She'll come home when she's ready. 42 years later, she didn't come home. And this family tried to jumpstart attention again and file a police report. And they were literally told, well, it's a cold case. There's nothing we can do. And that set me into a rage. Like
Mhm.
that's not an
Mhm.
answer we give to
Mhm.
people. No one should have to hear something like that about your missing sister for 42 years. And I was drawn to that case. I spoke with the sister, and as I often do, I just have such profound care for the family members. And in that case, I used my map, which we can talk about later, but I
Mhm.
used the map to really develop a couple of strong possibilities for her. And I kept pushing it. I used all my positive contacts while at the same time being snarky online. Like I would tag NYPD and that's not the first time I've done that. I had arguments with
Yes.
sergeant at missing person squad, and it's like you guys got to give attention to, like, we need answers. So I literally leveraged all my contacts. I advised the sister on certain things that only she should do,
Mhm.
because it's more impactful if the family's actually doing it.
Yes.
We got her DNA entered into the system. And after 42 years, we finally got, it took a year and a half, but we got her an official missing persons report. She's now on NamUs. She's on Charlie. She's not on Charlie Project yet, but Now there's some attention and some support structure behind her missing sister's case. And if that's the only thing I ever have done in this space, then that's a good way to go out, and that's it. Like that to me is what I can do as an advocate. I know contacts, I know people, and even if I don't, I'll reach out and I'll try to build a relationship.
Mhm.
And when it doesn't work, then sometimes you just got to kick the can down the
Yeah.
road.
That's what I love about you, Raul, is sometimes you have to, if nothing else has been working before, and the being nice and the trying to be professional, that's not
Yeah.
working. So sometimes you have to get a little angry, you have to get a little snarky, you have to make those posts. And we hear about the posts that we make, the posts that are like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
can't believe she said that. But sometimes you have to get their attention and offend them somehow for
Right.
them to start thinking about it. And you want to be a thorn in their side to say, what are we gonna have to do to get this person to go away? Because they're just
Yeah. They have to
unfortunate.
they have to really learn, and not universally, because we know that there are caring agencies out there and law enforcement officers out there, people that could make a difference, that there are those that care, but it's when they think that no matter what you say in some silly Facebook group or
Mhm.
on Twitter or whatever, if you ignore it, it'll go away. No, it doesn't, because your family member is gone and you want answers, and the people that you expect to help, when they just ignore you, that I couldn't tolerate that. I
No.
think if any of these situations were my family, I'd be way worse than I already am, and I'm a lot calmer now than I was, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. But still, like, can't, you got to fight it. I mean, and I've
Yes.
seen some of the posts, and why if for a moment I'll go, oh, and then I'll go, yes, because you have to, like, sometimes you have to do that, and it's important to it, and it also shows these people in charge that I'm not going to go away, and my voice is not going to get any lower. It's only going to get louder.
Right, right. And it's something that my attorney Stephen Kerrigan had told me is sometimes you have to bloody their nose a little bit, is how he put it. And he said something is you have to shake the cage, you have to bloody their nose, you have to get them to think a different way. And he said they're just so sometimes in their like this, they can't see outside of
Yeah.
it. They're just so stuck. So when it takes, for whatever reason, they don't want to listen to the family, says certain things to kind of, and you can see it in their face. At least I could tell he was thinking about it and he never thought about it that way before. And it takes someone else to present it to them in a
Yeah.
different way, in a different light,
Yeah.
and
And
get a
even
little
that's
aggressive.
hard. Yeah, and even that's hard on the families, because now you
Oh,
have to
yes.
invest money to get a
Oh,
lawyer.
yeah.
You got to get a lawyer that genuinely cares, not somebody that's just going to, you know,
Yeah.
take money and give you platitudes. You
Yes.
need somebody that's going to roll their sleeves up and be a bulldog
Yes.
and fight and really care at some level, close to the way a family member
Hmm.
cares. Like, you just
Hmm.
have to care. And I see that all too often, that's what it takes is a lawyer.
Yeah.
And it that to me bothers me, because then
Yes.
in a way you're contributing to a system that's
Hmm.
flawed fundamentally.
Yes.
um and I think any case, whether it's a missing or an unresolved um case, the the most powerful advocates are the families. The most in-depth research often comes from the families. And then even if you present this information, you got to fight to sit them down and pay
Yes.
attention to it, and then read it, absorb it, and then see how they can apply this information
Mhm.
to solve the case, their case,
Mhm.
but they look at it as their case, or a number, maybe even a name or even a face, but they keep a disconnect from it, which I can understand because you can't get wrapped up in,
Right.
if you have 100 missing persons cases, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do it.
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
not even a cop. I'm not law
Right.
enforcement, and I care for hundreds, like so many, and not just the missing or unresolved murder cases, all the unidentified
Mhm.
that few people are screaming for their justice or
Right.
their resolution. So it's tough.
You have a passion for it, and it becomes an obsession, but it's a passion that you just can't put down once you start. You have to keep going, and that's what I love about you and what you do. You put so much time and energy in volunteering. I mean, this you don't get paid for this. This
Yeah.
is a labor of love. And same with me with Elisa. There's a lot of time and effort put into this, and very rarely do you get the satisfaction is seen, like you were saying, when these
Yeah.
cases finally get to the point where with the Gilgo Beach murders, that the families are having some kind of closure. And now you're having someone who's being held responsible, and that's all you would ask. You just want to be able to bring some closure for these families, and I applaud and commend everything that you do on the site. It's a lot. It's very tiring. Like you said,
It
it can be
is.
very
Yeah.
exhaustive, the amount of effort that we put into, with you with the Gilgo Beach murders, and with me with Elisa and anyone else who's advocating for a loved one. Can you tell us just a little bit about CatchLISK and what it is and what you do? I know we did it a little backwards, but
No,
um,
it's fine.
can you take us, but when you decided you wanted to be a force to help these victims, the unidentified victims and the families?
Yeah. I guess catch list is in the middle and the advocacy is at the end. The beginning would be just and I I don't have a problem saying this anymore. For a while, I felt embarrassed saying it, that I had an interest in kind of evil people and why they did evil things. And Gilgo was always proximity to me in my life where I lived, places I've been to. It just, in a way, you get caught in that true crime interest by, proximity and awareness. And while I wasn't, and I'm still not into true crime, I resent the term actually. Um, I had an interest in what was happening out there and how, oh my God, there's like a serial killer in the midst of, wherever I go. I work in Midtown Manhattan. I live on Long Island. It's all right there. And it's just surreal. But I had an interest in that, and that brought me into a couple of the Facebook groups on Gilgo. Um, and then I watched for a while, and then I started noticing how people were saying one thing, families were stating something different, or like a rumor would have such strong legs to it when there's really nothing of substance to it. So I do what I do best, which is collect. I collect things. I collect facts. And I just started collecting, facts. Here's a rumor, here's the fact. Here's a false narrative, here's the truth, here's the source for it. Because you can always refute a rumor, but you got to be able to prove it. So I just started creating just a document of, I call them now lies and truth, and I would challenge people out there in the Facebook groups and say, this is not true, this is false. Here's why, here's what the family says, and here's the source for it. And it really didn't take long before that got traction and awareness. And in a way, it sort of elevated or broadened my exposure. I was still, in the Facebook groups at your own name, but outside the world, there was no catch list yet. And an interesting and beautiful thing happened. I began to see all of these victims as humans because You don't in the beginning. You watch true crime shows for whatever entertainment. I'm baffled by that, but whatever. Um, I started seeing all of these girls as human beings who were loved and who had so much love. And what I did not see, because it was a factor, but it wasn't who they were, which was, why they got caught up in this or how they did. And it became so quickly apparent to me that they were so much more than those moments that brought them to where they were. Um, and that's when I just started recording things in my mind on a piece of paper and a calendar. Shannon Gilbert's birthday. This was when Shannon Gilbert was found. Jessica Taylor, all of them. Now I can just recite it, right off the top of my head. But I would just write a post and say, today is like yesterday was Melissa Barthelemy's birthday. So like, there's always an honorable post
Some.
memorializing that. And that's when I started to get the attention of the family members, and they see nice pictures, nothing inappropriate, no mug shots, with a beautiful little write-up on that, not talking about anything other than she would have been 35 today, let's say, and could have been the hairdresser, hairstylist that she wanted to be, or the actress that she wanted to be, or the
Mhm.
singer that she wanted to be. And I that became the literal foundation of what CatchLISK was. It's sort of an oxymoron because it's CatchLISK, which is the Long Island serial killer, but everything I'm defined as is about ethical, um, memorializing and
Mhm.
humanizing these girls. And it's not just Gilgo. There are other cases on Long Island, but across the country, like yours, that I got very close to. Um, Cases, and I hate saying cases because they're humans, but I mean, you remember I got really caught up in Elisa's case, and I wanted to do so much more, and I'm a very effective researcher, but I also care. So I'm happy to be the lone and acknowledge that I'm the lone wolf that I am, because that's I'm effective at that, and it's not to say any other any part of advocacy under that spectrum it's all super duper important. For me, I just know where I'm most effective, and that's what I do. So CatchList just became CatchList. I had another Reddit account that, for whatever, bots
Mhm.
canceled or deleted the account, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I was already evolving into CatchList because I was focusing more on everything Gilgo. So I just went with the name because it just
Yeah.
clicked in my head. But at that same time, I developed the first real thing aside from the list of everything was that map. I wanted to see where all of these victims were placed
Mhm.
in proximity. Um, between Gilgo Beach and Manorville, where Valerie and Jessica were partially found. Um, and then other victims that were on Long Island, I just started adding them to the map. And that map tells a story if you look at it
Mhm.
for whatever reason. And in Long Island, I'm so familiar with that area. Like I just sat there and go, "Well, yeah, like I can see exactly what highway he's coming down, how
Mhm.
he's dropping off, and where he's going back up." And in a way, it's like geographic profiling. Not that I'm, touting that as a on a resume or anything, but you develop pattern recognition skills. You learn to see things differently, and um, but that's when the next change happened, because once I had Long Island missing and unidentified on there. Actually, I was doing unidentified first. Um, I said, "Oh my God, like there's something here," and I added all of New York, and then I went back and added all the missing in New York, and from there I just started adding New Jersey because of it's just close, and um, I felt like I was on to something. And then I got asked to participate and help research a little bit on a woman. Her name was uh, Gail Katz. Her husband actually murdered her. He killed her, and he wound up throwing her out of his plane over the Atlantic. So in preparation of for this podcast that they were doing, they noticed my map. I still don't even know how they found my map. And they asked for help to look for Gail. And that's when I started adding all of the unknown gender people, like could be just a leg or an arm or even a skull found off the ocean. And as I'm doing that for that Gail's podcast called The Girlfriends, I realized I absolutely have to get everybody on the map. The entire country, all of the unidentified, all of the missing, and then it'll be all of the unresolved murder cases. And I'm almost all of the unidentified are completely on the map. I'm more than three-quarters of the way done with all of the missing. I hope to have the missing done hopefully by fall. The
Mhm.
big states, Texas, California. I mean, California has 3,800 missing people, and that's just it's just a lot. And the process of getting it onto Matt now,
Yes.
because it's so big in and of itself, takes a long time for each one to place them. Because my map is different than any other map out there. My map is chronological. To the best of my knowledge, nobody's done that. So you can start like with Lisa's case. I started off, putting her on the map on her
Mhm.
missing date, and then you can scroll up to look at any other
Mhm.
unidentified. And I have certain like a legend on there, so it makes it easier to if you know what you're looking for. She was a minor, so you look for light pink hearts if you're searching for that. And I realized I can build a list in a half an hour, depending on how strict we keep the parameters and develop a list to submit to not only the NamUs, but to the law enforcement agency and to the family
Mhm.
and say, listen, I know your loved one is missing and I want to help in that regard, but
Mhm.
this map can
Yeah.
find them possibly if
Mhm.
they are deceased and haven't been identified. So, in that case, I've taken a missing person, developed a list of 20 something people. I think in one case in Alabama, yeah, it was Alabama, that the detective called me that he had saw the map, and I'm bewildered by that, but
Wow.
he saw the map and he asked for help on a case, and I was like, "Yeah, give me 15 minutes." And in 15 minutes, I gave him almost a dozen possibles, and he's like, "It would have taken me forever to do that,
Wow.
to just figure it out or scrolling, comparing NamUs and everything." Um, and I gave him. He said I gave him 6 months of work just on those dozens of names. So I'm like, that's that's a benefit of it. The where I'm at today with that map, and I'll share it with you because I just you're so special to me. Um, and I don't really talk about it publicly at all, but I have 21 solves on that map. Like
Wow.
21 families, have a path forward or have some answers. And that's incredibly humbling. Like it's incredibly humbling.
Mhm.
So that's also part of the reason I can never stop the map, and the map will never be done. I can sit there and go, I'm gonna get all this and all of that, but then there's the maintenance of it, and a lot of the DNA companies are identifying people, so I had to think about, do I want to leave them on there or take them off? I leave them on there now as identified. I make notations of that. Um, but I hate and love that map with a passion.
You have put so much work into that map, and I've watched it grow throughout the years that I started following you and watching you and us becoming connected. And I find myself too when you sent that to me, it's your first the first thing you want to do when you see it is if you're missing someone or looking for someone is you start clicking on the area.
Yeah.
start looking at different, because that's something that the reality of people who are missing a loved one, we're looking on those on NamUs, we're looking at the
Mhm.
unidentified, because that's how our loved one is going to be found. You want to give a name and a life um, to these victims. Now, the other day, you had posted a picture, and forgive me, I don't remember the name of the victim, but you posted her with her horse, and she was just a normal teenager with her horse
Valerie.
in a Valerie, and the pictures before have always been the mug shots. And that I've noticed that in the past, the pictures that have been posted for some missing people are their mug shots.
Yeah,
And that's so sad because you don't know what this person could have had a wonderful, normal life, growing up. They might have had hard times, and then something happened along the way that changed the trajectory of their life to put them in the path of these people and these
absolutely.
situations that ultimately led to their murder.
Yeah, I mean, just on the surface, you have to feel that that's rude, right? This is a
Yes.
moment in someone's life. They're not to be defined by this moment. I mean, nobody's perfect. So, I mean, I haven't ever been arrested, but if I had been, I wouldn't want my mug shot out there.
No,
Like that doesn't define who I am.
no.
That's just a moment in time, and you don't even know the circumstances of it. So like it's just rude in the first place.
Hmm.
In the
Hmm.
second place, there are other pictures. There were
Hmm.
stories published, just related to Valerie right now, because she's the one you're referencing. And like that mugshot of hers spawned so many disgusting comments. And that's also where I sort of earned my oh God, I was just gonna say bones, and that's terrible. I sort of earned my place, if there's such a phrase, because I would fight those fights. Like
Hmm.
I would fight the fights on behalf of Shannon or Jessica or Valerie or any of the girls or
Hmm.
anybody.
Hmm.
They're more than the circumstances of their deaths. And I've gotten, in a way, I leverage all the followers that I have on Twitter and my status and on Reddit and Facebook, um, and my relationships with a lot of media, and I will call them out. That's why when we were
Yes.
headed to court, I warned everybody. I'm like, if I catch you doing mugshots, I'm going to put you on
Good
blast
for you.
because
Hmm.
you can't be doing that. You just
Hmm.
have to stop doing that.
Hmm. Because that automatically, when they put a mugshot of it, it's like devaluing.
Yeah.
It's devaluing the person, the victim, and it's also blaming the victim.
Yeah, I literally, so when Valerie got her justice in December a year ago, on the day that he was charged with her murder, outlets had two pictures up. One of Valerie's mugshot and the other one of Rex, the killer, in a three-piece suit. And I'm like, what is wrong with this? Like, somebody's gonna pay for this. And I literally went off on a tear, and I was infuriated. I was very, very emotionally upset over it. Like, you guys just have to be better.
Hmm.
And I've attacked media outlets and the reporters or whatever, and like, well, it's not us. We're just reporting it. It's the editors. Like, I don't care if you're reporting it. You're the face of it.
Yes.
You're gonna pay the price for it. You're gonna get all the compliments for a good story. You're gonna
Mhm.
get the shit that I'm gonna throw at you if you just do something, really unethical like that.
Uh,
And they're all terrified of me now, which I kind of like.
Good, good for you. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was something that we would run into, not necessarily with Elisa, but with my mom, because of mistake. My mom wasn't perfect. She did the best she could with the tools she had at the time,
of
and
course.
and she loved her kids, and we were always together. And
Yep.
of course, she made mistakes. What parent doesn't make mistakes? And so, what always infuriates me when I see comments about my mom, or about her choice, her boyfriend, who was this, you know, people don't understand when you're in an abusive relationship, they don't
Right.
understand that dynamic and they don't understand how it is that they want to, again, blame the victim. Why doesn't she
Yeah.
leave him? Why did she stay with him? Why did she? And they don't understand that some of these women try to leave their abuser many times and then they get threatened and almost killed.
Right.
And they just, so that's something that my mom still gets crucified for.
Yeah, and that upsets me because your mom is just a doll.
Uh,
Like she's just the sweetest thing.
she is.
And I watch all the videos you put up, and when you were interviewing her, I was like, "Oh my God, she is just a doll. Like I
Yeah.
love her."
Yeah.
And you just want to give her a hug, and
Yeah.
to carry the burden that she's carried is, this is what I mean. Like family members are like I put them on a high pedestal because they're going through something most people can't fathom.
Right.
And instead of even attempting to others understand, they attack
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
they just shouldn't. Like, don't judge a man until you walked a mile in his
Right.
shoes. And
Right.
there's all these people throwing shade or whatever, or judging. They know somebody that's been in that
Yeah.
position. They know
Oh,
somebody that
yeah.
had an abusive someone in their family. Like they've all heard the rumors in their families, and you can't, put your nose up in the air as if you're better
No.
than that because you can find yourself in that
Oh, yeah.
situation in a hot second.
My mom feels a lot of guilt still,
Yeah.
a lot of guilt and a lot of shame because she feels she helped to she brought that into our home and she um something else that people will talk about, though they're fast to criticize her for leaving our hometown when it was just too painful to stay there. But my dad moved a year before she did because he it broke his spirit too. And
Yeah.
he moved to Alaska. He was living off the grid because of what it did to him mentally and emotionally. But no one has ever criticized my dad. He barely gets mentioned. Nobody cares when I've said he left before my mom did, and he was trying
Yeah.
to get my mom to come. But she gets crucified. And it's interesting how women are people are so much harder on women and their mistakes, but it's a whole different ball game when it's a male. And it's infuriating to watch that when again when the victims are they have to say this in there. They have to call them, I hate saying this when they call them a prostitute or they call them, say that they were a drug addict. Quit using those words. Quit
Yeah.
using those words.
Especially, and like we were having conversations all day, well, recently, but a lot heavier. And then again today, like in a way, we've hit like this high tide of it. And why can't we just say Jessica Taylor? Why can't we just say Valerie Mack? Why can't we
Mhm,
just say Shannon Gilbert or Maureen?
mhm,
Nothing else needs to be said. Let's just talk about that individual.
mhm, mhm.
You don't say, I'm Joe Schmo, I work in a candy store. Like you just don't like you say, hi, I'm Raul. I don't
Yes.
say, hi, I'm Raul, I'm CatchLISK, I'm an advocate.
Yeah.
I work at this place. Like you don't give your whole life title. Um, and that just has to stop. If we're gonna talk about the girls, if anyone's gonna do any content, this is where I get really aggravated and wired, is if you're gonna do content about Gilgo, then they're just girls. Like enough. Everyone knows what happened. Everyone knows that facet of, that part of their lives. But I've spent all this time, and so has the families, and so have many other people, really putting forth the proper narrative that, Jessica had an entire family that loved her. They were distraught beyond compare when she went missing. They were absolutely devastated when she was identified. And then they went 20 years without anything. So it's in a way, you start off with ambiguous loss, you have a answer, but then that's all you get for a couple of more decades, and it's just unacceptable. And I think though I wish the world saw things, you know, a little more, like see things softer. S- Just see them as your own daughter, your own
Hmm.
sister, your
Hmm.
own relative, your mother, your whatever. And I fought that for so long, and now that it's I don't want to say it's over, but I'm going to just use it because it's just easier. But now that it's over, like I'm still burned out from it,
Yes.
and I talk with families and they're like, you have the same type of PTSD
Yes.
that we have,
Hmm. Hmm.
minus the severity of it. But, you know, all you can do is if I can make one person learn it, see it differently, then maybe they can do the same to somebody else. And
Exactly.
that's all I can do. I can post all these things out on social media that you're making an impact on it when the hate comments you get are, here you go again preaching. Ah, but you're not fighting me anymore on the
Right.
substance of it. So I know it's getting through. You know what you can expect from me, and
Hmm.
that's never going to change. So in
Hmm.
a way, like you're moving that stone wheel a little bit, not a whole lot, but you're moving it a little bit. And in a way, that was my contribution. The biggest benefit I've gotten out of this whole Gilgo thing are my relationships
Hmm.
with like some of those family members.
Hmm.
They're some of the most important relationships I think I'll ever have, aside from like my daughters and my kids and things like that, people like that. But they mean so much to me that it's in a way I feel like I don't want to lose them because this is in a way resolving, but I know I won't because of the deep friendship.
Hmm. There's a bond
And
there. Hmm. There's a
yeah,
bond
and
there.
and that's very special to me.
Hmm.
I mean, I had reporters texting me, emailing me, um, going, "What picture can we use?" I'm like, if I've posted it, then it's authorized. Like,
Yes.
just scrub my social
Hmm.
media. It's everywhere. Like,
Hmm.
CatchLISK is everywhere.
Yeah.
And like, just if I posted it, then it's okay to copy it,
Mhm.
take it. Like, I don't even want credit for it.
Yeah.
Even if it's something I put together myself, like I'm not about that. Like that's not, I don't do any of this for that. So as like if it's on my Twitter or on Facebook or whatever, just take it, use it.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's authorized.
Hmm.
And that's a beautiful thing too. But advocacy, all of that. I guess I think I was told once I'm obsessive. And when I get obsessed about something, it's all I can do.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. It happened, with you. I got very obsessed over all of that. I was devouring everything. 2 or 3 times I'd listen to the same podcast. I had to, put it all to memory. And then like I usually do because I'm a lone wolf, I had to push it a little bit and, spark some sort of conversation. But I never want to be detrimental to a case. Like I never want to cause any grief or strife in any of that. So it's a hard juggling act because you're not given there's no book on it. I mean, there are now, but there's no
Right.
book on it. And, I follow my heart
Hmm.
in all things, which is almost always to my detriment, but do it anyway. But as long as my conscience is clear and clean and I can go to bed at night and sleep, then I feel like I'm doing the right thing. And I'm not perfect because I've made mistakes, so
Yeah.
I'm of the breed that when I make a mistake, I own it. And I
Yes.
I also put it out there publicly that
Hmm.
I was wrong for doing this.
Hmm.
I apologize. I'm not taking it down. I'm gonna leave my apology up there
Yes.
so that, people know that I'm not perfect.
Yeah. And people see that. People see that because same here. I've approached things in a way that I look back, I could have done that differently. I could have said that differently.
Yeah.
But I think people see that. People know where your heart is and that you're fighting for justice for these victims. and you're wanting people to have more
Yeah.
awareness and empathy on how they interact with the families of these victims and how they talk about them on a public forum. One of my friends, Robin Peary, her sister, Susan Libby Marable, has
Yep.
been missing for several years. I think 35, 30,
Yep.
same amount Elisa has been missing. And this is something that she started becoming really vocal about, is engaging with empathy, because she was seeing how people were interacting with the families and the victims, and how people were they were exploiting these victims.
Yeah.
They were under the guise of advocacy and were helping, but they weren't any controls of, this is my page, I own it, so you can't interact that way with the family, or we're not going to talk about this victim this way. We're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
And it just, even myself, I'm learning through this, because there are just things that you have to have it, you have to live it, and you have to have this empathy to understand what families are going through. So we understand it a little bit differently. But I just couldn't put to words. I couldn't put it to words the way she would and the
Yeah.
way you do. It's enough about the victim blaming and the family blaming, and you don't know what these families have gone through. You don't know what this person had gone through, and that's the other thing, when we call them victims, it's another label, unfortunately, that
Right.
brings more. It loses that this was a person, this was a human. She
Yeah.
lived a life, he lived a life. We never talk about that, and it's getting better. I notice with some with the advocacy groups they're getting better at, let's this is their birthday, this is what they love to do, and what you do on your page, and what Robin Peary does.
Yeah.
So it helps to bring it back to the person. And even myself, I've gotten lost when you're fighting so hard, and you're angry, and you're
Hmm.
fighting for justice. You're just fight, 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 that you kind of lose sight of, at least for myself, of wait a minute, who is this for, and what is this about? It's about
Right.
Elisa. So I have to ground myself too sometimes, and I'm sure you've run into that with yourself and with some of the families that
Yeah, I
you
mean, I
help.
have everything that I post for anybody, it's in my phone calendar. And
Mhm.
it's always set for 7 a.m. So it's 7 a.m. on any particular day. It's a minimum of one person. At times it could be four, five, or six going off at once. But I do two things that's really between me and the person.
Mhm.
So let's just say, because she's always on my mind, Jessica Taylor.
Yeah.
And her birthday is coming up, and on that day, I will, when my alarm goes off, I usually do it before that because I'm already wide awake by 7. I'm already out of the house at 7, by 5:30 anyway. But what I do is I take a few minutes and I say that name in my own head. Like I'll say her full name.
Mhm.
And then I'll just spend the few minutes. Usually it's on the train, so from one stop to the next, I will literally just spend that distance, that minute and a half, 2 minutes, just thinking about that person.
Beautiful.
And they deserve it. And I've said this on when I used to do a lot of interviews. um when you're reading something often, like, you see the same names so frequently, you just go right by them because your
Mhm.
brain just automatically recognizes that. I stop myself when it comes to all of these people that I care so much about. I stop and I'll say the name in my entire head. Like I will stop. I know the length of the Maureen Brainerd Barnes is that long, and I can just go right past it and speed read through it, but that's a disservice to the memory. So I stop and I'll go Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, Melissa Barth. Like I stop, I say it because it keeps me focused on what's most important, and it's that person. It's literally that person. And I've done that at court. Whenever I would go to the Gilgo hearings, I've only missed a small handful, but there's a moment in time when the judge is ready, but the defendant's not out yet. And that's when everything gets quiet because the judge will ask for the defendant, and I have a minute or two. And in that minute, if you're next to me, you'll hear me mumble. I'll say their names out loud, not, to disrupt the court or anything. It's just barely audible, but I will say each of those girls' names because oftentimes, for the majority of those cases, the families couldn't be there. It wasn't warranted that they needed to be there. I was there because I was committed to it. And I would sit there and say, I'm here today for Sandra Castilla, Karen Vergata, Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, all of them. And now dog is barking. Like I made that important. And that's what I say to other people. Find something, if you're an advocate, not related, find something super important and meaningful and make it even more meaningful to yourself, because that'll always be the center of the advocacy you build around it. And that's it for me. I learned about your sister. I read about it, and I'm very empathetic, so I started feeling it, and I I just remember hearing or reading how she would listen to music, and
Mhm. Mhm.
and I'm like, oh my God, I was doing that myself.
Yeah.
I'm a few years older than her, but I was like, in that band, no, I wouldn't listen to that band, but it's like you make it relevant, and then that's how you see somebody as a human being. And then it just expands because then you realize, you listen to you talking about her, you hear your mom talking about her, and like, how do you not have space in your heart, and you have to give. So I take whatever skill sets I have or time to devote to give, and I invest in it. And I don't know if I'm doing anything monumental to drive the needle, but I'm doing something, and that makes me feel validated.
Just what you were talking about, it's going to make me be a little more cognizant of, because that's you to spend just a few more seconds of just, instead of just like you said, just scrolling through, but to actually really, you see the names, but to actually take a minute to say their name out loud,
Yeah,
and to say, you mattered. And I think that's actually a good way to, um, I believe in synergy, and I believe in people coming together, and that power. I think the prayer meditation, I think, is so powerful, and it's just and it's so it help the family can feel it. They can feel when people come together to honor someone, or like you do, to go to the courts to fight for them, to post things. The people, the families, they can feel it, and that the army and the
yeah,
support behind it is just, it's so meaningful. And that was something I wanted to ask about. You actually would go to court with some of these families, and support them while they were sitting there
yeah,
in those hearings.
yeah. I
Yeah.
was there last week for his confession,
Mhm.
his admission of guilt. And some of them, the family's like, I won't be able to see you or talk to you because they're secluded, they're
Yeah.
kept separately. And I'm like, I don't care. I just, as long as you know that I'm there.
Yeah.
Like, that's all that as long as you know that I'm there for you, for your cousin or your sister or your mom. So, and even if you don't know, I'm still
They're
there.
still there. Hmm.
And that's all that matters. That's why last week really changed me. Like, I knew this evolution was coming, but like, I think it's here. And like, I did ultimately post online about the case because I think I can't be. It would be silly of me to not continue in the right now at the moment to post because of um the I don't want to say status. It sounds so arrogant. Just the level of communication that I put out there. It's ethical, and it's always going to be victim centric. Um, but and I say this to many of the families, I'm sick of Gilgo. I'm so over Gilgo, and it's PTSD in a way. It's like I'm over Gilgo. I don't want to hear because there's now even more new people coming in with interest in the case and asking the same questions that are 10, 15 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old questions. And it's like just do some research before you put a
Yeah.
question in. Like just research. I was quiet for months in the groups. I was researching, I was reading everything, collecting everything. Because if I'm gonna make a statement, it has to have
Yes.
knowledge behind it. It'd be irresponsible. And I put these girls on such a they're so important to me that when someone asks a stupid question
Mhm.
in these groups and whatever, like if they were in front of me, I'd shake them.
Yeah.
But I asked those questions when I started, but I asked those questions to Google, or
Yes.
I asked those questions, in newspapers.com or where I
Hmm.
asked those questions quietly because I'm not gonna re-traumatize if I'm getting offended by
Yes.
a stupid question. Can you imagine
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
someone who lost their sister is
Uh-huh.
experiencing, or someone that doesn't know where their sister is yet. And
Hmm.
and people like with Elisa, they ask these
Hmm.
questions
Yes.
that are
I
maddening to me.
know. I know. And I sometimes I think what that's where you can get the most that's I think why we've had so many problems. Part of that is we've had people that just start saying stuff from what the last person said. And I'm
Yeah,
like, what are you talking about? And they just take it. And once they say it one time, it's almost like it's etched in stone. And I don't know where they get some of the stuff they get, but once it starts, you can't take it back, and it's
yeah,
put out and it's on social media, and that has been number one by far. The number one thing that has created a lot of problems in Elisa's
yeah,
case is just people saying really dumb stuff and not taking the time to either research or to ask, to talk to the family. They don't. Some people won't even talk to us. They'll talk to
yeah,
someone who is barely linked to this case as if it's and they take it as fact. It just
yeah,
I just get so flustered when I think about that. It's just and sometimes they'll say things like, "Are you kidding me?" as many times as and I get it. We're going to be more invested and but don't say something or post something or put something out there if you
yeah.
don't really understand or know.
Exactly. When before the arrest happened in the Gilgo case, when I saw, and I still call them stupid questions, when I would see a stupid question, I looked at it as an opportunity to educate,
Yes,
to
yes. It's an
again
opportunity.
to restate a fact online, published, and every like here's where you're down a wrong path. Here's where you're misconstruing the information or
Mhm,
misinterpreting the fact. Here are the facts, here are the sources. It's an opportunity to educate.
mhm.
But at this point, after the arrest, with the magnitude of the information out there,
Yeah.
you could just type in
Mhm,
Gilgo and you'll get a trillion pages on
mhm,
Google.
mhm,
Like invest the time to research.
mhm.
And if you don't want to research, then you look for whether I'm gonna bite my tongue after saying this. You look for content creators that you admire for whatever reason. I probably won't admire them for any a number of reasons, but that's besides the point. But you find a content creator that you admire who has done the story on it and ask them questions or jump in their chat and ask questions. Hopefully there's people like me that troll these chats and
Yes.
will answer them occasionally. I don't do it so much anymore because I you can take a horse to water, but the horse turns around and puts his ass in the water. It's
Mhm,
like, put the horse down
mhm,
because
mhm.
like you can't fix stupid in a way. And I know this is where I start getting, wound up, but 30 seconds to Google, man.
Yeah.
Even if you had an AOL dial-up,
Mhm, mhm.
like it takes no time to get the information. And in a large part, it's why I sort of locked a lot of my documents that I had public for years. It's like no one's gonna just grasp it and run with it and recognize it as fact. And now because there's court hearings and everything, now you want that information.
Mhm.
Well, I can be passive aggressive myself,
Oh,
so not happening.
yeah, I was talking to Richard, our family investigator, and he said that sometimes even putting out some of these documents that show some people just, I don't know what's wrong in their heads, but
Yeah,
some people, nothing is ever going to be good enough for these people, and they're going to skim by the actual facts and the documentation, and they're going to go for the drama,
yep,
and anywhere where there's drama, and when there's lies and there's fighting, and that's why I had to, I'm still not perfect, but that's why I had to really train myself how to not engage with these people,
yeah,
because I think that's what they wanted, and they were fishing for me to come out and engage with them, because they wanted that. People wanted to see that. It's like a cat fight. And and so I just like what Shayna said, don't with Light the Way, don't fuel the fire.
yeah,
And it seemed like that's what sold more. The facts and the actual what was true didn't seem to get much attention, but what was lies and rumors and fighting and
right.
ugliness and seemed to get people were listening to that more.
Hmm.
And it's unfortunate that Debbie Green, I know you've heard me talk about Debbie Green.
Oh boy.
um she's got a group of people. She's just it's just sad that this was a family friend at one time who
Yeah,
we took in like a little sibling, and don't know what happened in her life to make her be so hateful and ugly, because it's more than just believing something, but it's also being really mean and nasty. But she's got a group of
exactly.
followers, and I just never understood why these people who I don't know, or they don't know my life story, just kind of they just latch on. And it's incredible to me how people can just do that. So like you said, you can't fix stupid, and
Yeah,
you can't fight it if they're going to believe what they're going to believe, and I have to just keep fighting the fight and saying the facts, and those who are true and empathetic and kind and are really listening and
yeah.
care, they're going to see it. So
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I always preach to others, which is the hardest medicine to take myself, is to let the silence do the heavy
yes.
lifting. And like I'll say that a million times. One of the family members, every time I say it, she's like, I just want to kick your in the ass.
I
Like
know.
every time you say it, I'm like, I
Yes.
know. I said, but it's hard for me to take it
Hmm.
because, and I've learned, and Shayna was a great influence for me on that.
Hmm.
And I took that to heart, and it's still a part of me, but I also don't keep the snarky person
Yeah.
caged up anymore either,
Yeah.
because sometimes you just have to push back, and it's warranted. I went through a couple of years where I had an insane amount of trolls attacking me, saying
Oh.
outrageous things and hurtful things,
Mm.
doxing, putting my minor daughter online. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, and
That's
and it wasn't just
horrible.
me. They did it to other people, including a family member.
Mm.
Um, and sometimes you can't give them oxygen
Hmm.
because, I have X amount of followers and they have very little. And if I engage, all my followers see that. And that to me is still so gross and icky, even
Hmm.
considering that.
Hmm.
But you can't fix them.
No.
And whatever their fixation is, or their angle, or their need for relevancy is, at the end of the day, my focus is on what I do, and like your focus is on your sister, and Debbie you can't fix.
No.
So, you watch, you record,
Yeah.
and then you disengage.
Yeah.
Which is hard. It's the hardest thing to do, especially when it's your family member, like
Hmm.
you want to go out there and fight. Um,
But
it often doesn't help.
no. And you notice with these people, they do a lot of circular arguments. So
Hmm.
you'll never win.
You
You'll never
can't.
win. They want to know about this, and you answer, and it goes to the next. It's just never going to be enough. And it's
Yeah.
just going to keep going in circles. And you end up feeling more crazy.
Yeah. I used to always say, you ever go in an old library and you pull out the card catalog and all the index things? Like
Uh-huh.
you can argue with them and they'll throw that
Yes.
one out, but there's another one right
Mhm.
behind them. Like they have another answer, another argument.
Yes.
It's your circular thing. It's exactly that. And it's like there was a time where like, yeah, I'll go through the entire card catalog with you. Like I will refute every single thing. This comment thread could have 15,000 comments and I'm here for that all day long. But at this point, I don't have the energy. I'm
No.
doing things that are, a little bit more important. And it's not my job to educate you. Like people want my source. All right, well then go search for it.
Yes.
Like it's there. It's all public anyway. But, again, you just got to focus on what's most important, and for me, it's all the families that I work with and that I care about. It's the map, it's the rest of Gilgo through the sentencing. And then, then it's just having a friendship with some of these people and, which I already do. But it's like we're not talking about this
Yeah.
anymore, We're not talking about this giant elephant in the room.
Hmm.
Like that center of gravity has been almost released from the space and people can breathe and people going, what's next? And it's like, let's get there. And when we get there, we won't even know we're there yet. And then
Yes.
we'll just wait for the sun to rise and
Hmm.
we'll see what that day brings us. And, we'll all tackle it the way we handle every day. But, you know, of course, it'll go to the next case. For me, it'll go to the next one and the next one. I'll never let go of Gilgo, even though I can't have it be the center of everything. And I started to replace a lot of that as the map really took hold of me and the things that developed because of the map, like the tattoo database and everything else that I do in tandem with it. And all the submissions that I put out there when I finish a state, I submit all the things that I come across. So it's things like that. But I still wish I could do more. I still wish I could have done more with the communications I was having, with Elisa's case. I wish I had more time to, fully dive back in again on Dawn Michelle Holt's case. But one of the things, especially with Dawn's case, is I've worked a lot with Dawn's daughter now, and like she's like, "But you're my advocate." I was like, "You're your own advocate. I'm watching you now. Like you are taking the lead on your mom's case, and I'm not abandoning you. I'm still there every step of the way, but." You found your feet. And if I helped you do that, then that's another blessing in the world. But you're now your mom's greatest advocate. It doesn't matter what like I did for Dawn. Um, which is a lot, but I didn't do it alone. I did it with like her daughter Sam and um gave them information, taught them how I do certain things. She taught me so much about, she's sharp as a tack. And that's why I love working with families because they're sharp. You guys are smart. And I'm like, "Oh, I learned that today." And then for me, it's just proud to watch people like you stand for your sister, people like Samantha stand for her mom, anybody that stands for their loved one against all odds, mountains of obstruction, whether it's law enforcement or ignorance from the public or, what conspiracy theorists like watching people like you do what you do
Mhm.
is what I still wish I could be.
But
And that
Raul, you have done so much. You really have. And I still remember, I don't know when it was, but there was a post that had been made on Missing Elisa. And I said something about how there was a time where we were so alone and we didn't have people supporting us. We felt so alone and so abandoned. And then you said, well, you're not alone now. You have an army behind you. And that just has stuck with me because it's when you start having that support behind you to kind of push you to say you can
Hmm.
do this. You have us with you. You don't need to be afraid anymore. You have we are right there with you. And we
Yeah.
could be states away from each other, but there's still that support and that love and that friendship. And I don't know that you give yourself enough credit for everything you do and that you've done and the continued support and hope and that you give to these families. And um, so I just thank you still for everything you do and continue to do and for all the thank you for listening to me when I start getting on a roll and I start text messaging and
I
asking
love
questions.
that. I'm
Oh
here for
my
that all day long. Like, go for it. I remember when we last talked and you were thinking about what to do and
Mhm.
throwing ideas out and you gave me credit for it in the moment, but I hope you realize I didn't do anything. I was just listening and you were like balloons, but oh wait, maybe flowers by the fisherman's uh
Siemens Memorial.
yeah,
Mhm.
the memorial there. And I'm like, she's like that you were like, thank you so much. I'm like, I just sat here. Like
It's
you channeled it and it
Mhm.
spoke to you in the moment and it was beautiful watching like the videos and the pictures from that. And it was very, very touching. And I'm like, I didn't do that. I really didn't do that. That was her.
You're like a sound.
She she said that. She did that. It's her idea, you
Oh,
know?
it's like a sounding board, and it's
Yeah.
sometimes, like you said, you just kind of have to. And in the moment, I'm panicking. I'm like, oh no, what do I do? What do I do? And I can't think. And then I just and it just came to me. And yeah, it's funny how sometimes you just need a sounding board,
Yeah. But
something different.
that's the easiest thing. It's the second easiest thing you can do, right?
Yes,
If you really are genuine and authentic in your heart, then it's the easiest thing to do is just
yeah.
listen.
Hmm.
Just
Hmm.
listen. I mean, there's one family member and I love her, and if she ever hears this, she's gonna yell at me. But like we have a running joke, like you can call me up and just scream at me, curse me out, yell, say all terrible things, and then 10 minutes later call me back and we say I love you. You know,
Yeah.
like it's okay. I know that you're going through something I couldn't understand and you're here every day. And you can't sit there be all sunshine and roses every day.
Yes.
Sometimes you're piss and vinegar. And when
Hmm.
you are that, then I'm here for that
Hmm.
just as strongly as I am for there next to you when you're celebrating something or you're happy about
Yeah.
progress or something. So that the simplest way to advocate is to listen
Yes.
and just be there for somebody.
Hmm.
Other than that, the other thing that anybody can do is just share a flyer.
Yes.
Like you just don't know the benefits of if I hadn't seen that flyer, that post on Stacy Reddish on Missing Black Persons Facebook group, um, Stacy may not have a missing persons report this at this moment. The fact that she has one is because I saw that. I saw that. The first solve on my map, I saw in passing, it was an Instagram reel, and those things are only like 10 seconds. And I just saw the face, and I'm like, holy shit, I have that face on my map. And I literally was a Sunday morning, and I called the New York City office of the medical examiner, and I'm like, I got this. There's the
Wow.
match. And that was the
Wow.
first one. Like it's just a moment in time. You know, if you have the memory for things, if you can recall or organize not only your thoughts but your information, then it's just a matter of like, you know, putting the
Hmm.
button in the hole there. Um, but it just like listen, be a friend,
Hmm.
you know, and you earn being a friend. You know,
Hmm.
I when I talk with new family, I talked to a new family a few months ago, and the wife had said to me, "But how do we know we can trust you?" I'm like, "That's the first question. Like, that's the best question anybody's asked me because you don't know me from Adam. I can sit there and give you my link tree and all the things that I done, and I can show you, but trust." Is transactional. You earn that.
Hmm.
It's like a dollar in the bank every single time. And you earn it that way. And you know, of course, you know, I don't want to say it works, but because it's authentic, it works because it's authentic.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you make yourself accessible to listen, you bounce ideas off, you come up with novel approaches to whatever, whether it's memorializing or an event. And clearly you're better than I am at that, just based on the flowers at the memorial. But that's the crux of it. And what joy are you giving to a family member if you just do that bare minimum?
Hmm.
Because they feel safe.
Yes. Yes.
When you feel safe, then you can be your more truer self and thoughts aren't restricted in any way. Like the space is open, the aura is
Yes.
open, and then
Yes.
you're open to receive. And
Mhm.
and that's oh, wow, I just went off on a whole tangent there, but
No, no,
but
no. I love
that's
it. I love
it.
it. I love it because it just, it brings it back to the basics.
Yeah,
It really does. Feeling safe, being able to talk to someone and giving them that space because for a lot of these people, they may have not ever really had that.
yeah,
And so for the first time, they're feeling that and they have that and they're able now to be advocates in the full capacity where that was never I never even realized I don't know. I don't know. There was just for so long I didn't think I had any power to do anything or to change anything. I felt very defeated.
yeah,
And I don't know. I don't know how just something fueled a fire in me that it's got to be me, it's got to be us, it's got to be the family because no one else is going
exactly.
to head it and do
Yeah,
it. So and like you were saying earlier, there's no guidebook or handbook. More are starting to come out, but we've had to figure a lot of this out on our own. And
hmm,
I've done it by watching a lot of the other families
yeah,
and seeing what they were doing. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's what I need to be doing. And oh my gosh, I need to do this. And it just was um just watching others
yeah. And that's the beauty of that. When you're in that group,
Mhm.
because it's a unique group, and um, watching how families rely on each other, support each other,
Uh-huh.
share each other's, loved ones' flyers or go on their shows and talk. And that's beautiful because a
Mhm.
decade ago, there was nothing like that.
Oh.
People were scrambling for help
Mhm.
and there was just so little of it out there. And if the internet can do any good, it brings people together like
Yes.
that. And then like I'm so happy when I see you doing, interviewing other people that are also having missing loved ones. And yeah, I can give all the empathy in the world, but I'm short of that. I
Yeah.
fall short of that because I don't have that and I can't truly understand. I can come close, but it's not the same, and close doesn't win. But I can do other things, and that's what I try to do. Like I can empathize on a very deep, genuine level, and then I can support in any way, shape, or form that I'm able to. But watching families support each other, and have these groups and conversations, and whether it's Light the Way organizing it, which is just so beautiful, and like the webinars and all of that,
Mhm.
or it's just separate relationships that different family members have. I think that's another blessing because
Yes.
you're all in that together.
Hmm.
People like
Hmm.
us, we're here to help, um, but it's fundamentally you guys,
It's
and you're not alone. You're just not alone. And clearly there's an army
yes.
now because every new
True.
family that, learns to trust you guys and you trust another new family, that army just grows even bigger.
Yes.
And for God's sakes, it's just 2 clicks to forward a flyer. Like
Oh, I know.
it's the
I
easiest thing
know.
in the world.
It's
So
true. It's true. I know you talked a lot about this already, but is there anything that a message of hope for people for families who feel lost, who feel defeated?
So I was very much moved last week. After he pled guilty to the 8 murders, During the press conference, a lot of the family members had, well, some of the family members had spoken. Um, the one person that really said something profound that I was so happy that she did was Melissa Can. That's Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister, and honestly, Maureen's most fierce advocate. And Melissa is Missy. She's a very, very special person. The
Mm.
first time I talked with Missy, I was crying in under 10 seconds. Like
That's the
just
one you tagged me on. I think you tagged me
yes.
on the
Yeah.
message in the post.
Yeah.
Yes, I read
I,
that.
I definitely wanted you and then Sam, who's the daughter of Dawn Michelle Holt, and I also tagged Dawn's sister in that. And I wanted you, and then I'm like, oh my God, I should be tagging everybody, but the tags will be
No,
longer than the entire post.
no
And I
tag.
think her words were so important because, well, for Missy, she was missing her sister for 16 years, right? 2010, no, 2007, so a little longer. Um, 19 years. Um, but it was the message that resonated, and that's just hope. Like
Mhm,
basically, it's
mhm.
simple.
Yeah.
She did a lot prettier than me just saying hope, but it's hope that families need more than anything. And
Yes.
hope, you would think that, hope doesn't solve crimes or hope isn't going to bring anybody home. Well, but hope allows you guys to wake up in the morning and go for the best and
Yes.
hope that something new happens today in a positive way, or
Mhm.
hope, you get answers. So hope is probably the single greatest energy a family member can
Yes.
tap into. I mean, on the other
Mhm.
side of that is complete sorrow and sadness, but you can't allow that to dominate you because you'll self-destruct.
Yes.
So you have to
Yes.
hold on to hope. It's a defense mechanism. It's an actionable concept, and it's a tangible feeling. Like you
Hmm.
feel hope. You feel it in your chest. Like you
Yeah.
feel it.
Hmm.
Um, and hope is all that, Missy, just speaking of Missy, she had hope. And of course she had faith and belief. And, that once things started to happen, that it would go all the way through to the end, which it is. Um, but it's the same energy I hear from, Samantha and Sherry. It's the same info I hear from Milagros's daughter and all these other families that I apologize often that I can't seem to do anything further. But I'm the only one putting that flyer out, and that's fine. And a lot of people share my flyers, and that's a beautiful thing. But I started that for them, and that gave them some hope. It gave them some recognition
Hmm.
and acknowledgement of whatever they're experiencing, the ambiguous loss or whatever. Um, but hope and as an advocate, if you can give a family member hope, which has to be done carefully, because you can't go, I'm going to solve this, because that's just being rude. Um, like I've set expectations, like I don't know how far we'll go on this, but here's the plan. And let's work on this plan. I won't do any step of the plan without your input, your permission. Like you can call me the main advocate, but I'm not family. You are the main advocate. And when you're ready to take that, I will gladly take the badge off and give it to you. It's that. But it's hope,
Yes.
and they hope. And when there is a little bit of movement or a little bit of progress, or somebody's looking at the case file, like in law enforcement, they finally open up the case file. That's hope.
Yes.
It's something that they're doing now that they weren't doing yesterday, and
Yes.
that's a hopeful thing.
Hmm.
Where
Yes.
it goes
And
from there is something else. But I think the overriding message as an advocate to give is authentic hope,
yes.
not false hope, not overpromise. You know, I, I don't look at it as talking to the sister of missing person,
Mhm.
Elisa Roberson. I look at it as I'm talking to my friend Ruby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
So as a friend, I'm not gonna steer you wrong. I'm not gonna give
Right.
you false hope. I'm not gonna make empty promises. Wouldn't be a friendship.
Right. Right.
And for me, so and I'm sorry if I'm going on now.
No, no,
With Dawn Michelle Holt's case, I always knew about missing person Dawn Michelle Holt.
mhm,
I thought she was a possible Long Island victim. The dates were off, but I always cared about Dawn Michelle Holt.
mhm.
It wasn't until I got introduced to her sister, and then ultimately to her daughter, Christ, to the whole family, um, that they became as important to me
Mhm.
as Dawn. And what's really interesting is some of these unidentified Jane Does or John Does that I care. There's a lot of Jane Does that I care very, very much about. I just I can't always put,
Right.
a postmortem picture up of somebody because how shocking would that be to finally
Mhm.
see your loved one after 35, 40 years like that. Um, but I'm so committed to some of these does that when they get their name back, I struggle a little bit because it's like, oh my God, this is, I hate saying a number or a colloquial name like, whatever, Fire Island Jane Doe. She's now Karen Vergata. In that case, Fire Island Jane Doe became Karen. Fire Island Jane Doe, I say very little ever again. With Tanya Denise Jackson, who was Peaches in the List
Well,
case,
yes. Yep.
people still struggle over saying peaches, peaches, and they try to give themselves a pass. Well, I've said peaches for 15 years. I don't give a shit. That's not her name. Her name now is Tanya.
Yes.
So change it. Like make yourself
Yes.
back to what I say. Read their names, say their
Yes.
name.
Say their name.
Yeah,
Say their
and then
name.
it carries more weight. You humanize the
Hmm.
person. Peaches is it was a smart descriptor because that's all we had was a peach
Yeah.
tattoo, and it made sense, and it differentiated itself enough. But she's Tanya now,
Yes.
and that's what we call her. So nothing else should change. And it's just that approach. When you put these missing, unidentified, or unresolved murder cases, when you put these people as genuine people, and you can extend grace and care to
Hmm.
one, learn about them genuinely, and two, do something positive for their case, even if it's just sharing a flyer or a post or engaging with whoever created the write-up or no, not always a big fan of reaching out to families, even though I've done it. I feel bad. Um, I still apologize once a year to this one particular family. Like, you need to stop already. It's like you don't have to apologize. Everything was good. But it's that, like, be supportive. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just that I don't know why it's not
I
rocket
know.
science. It's so damn simple.
I know. I
It
know. It really
astounds
should
me.
be, but it
Yeah.
seems like so many people they miss the mark.
Well, there also a lot of people are in it for the wrong reasons.
True. Hmm.
And I think that's what's very sad. You know, I mean, I'm sure you've seen my issues online with,
Yes. The
content
content. Mhm.
creators. Yeah, it's like, if I get bombarded with requests to be on so many shows, and I'm like, nope, nope, I have no interest in being in front of a camera. I've done that show when I did Catch Justice with Jessica in Texas. Like we
Mhm.
did the shows. Our show was every show we did was on people that we had spoken at length with the families,
Mhm.
shared the script, what we were going to say, the pictures were authorized, the commentary was 9 times out of 10, those family members were in the chat themselves.
Mhm.
So it was all with that blessing, but that takes a ton of work and time, which I was struggling to balance. I did all those, I was always ready days in advance, but it just ate up days of my week. And it's heavy because it's heavy to do that all the time. It's kind of intoxicating in a way to be out there. And I had that sort of intoxication, every time I was asked to be on another show and talk about Gilgo, and I would never talk about the girls, just like bare facts because it's not my job to talk about them. That's their family's job. Um, but you get intoxicated with that and you want that for yourself. And I realized immediately I did not want that, which is why, aside from the 10 or 12 episodes Jessica and I did together on our respective cases, I only have one episode on my own CatchLISK YouTube, and that's me going off on a disgusting lawyer, but who deserved it. But
Good.
so, I don't necessarily need the spotlight. I don't need the credit. I don't want the
Mhm.
camera per se. I do the shows that I do, which I haven't done in a bit. I think I did Jason's a couple of months ago. It's because I respect the person
Mhm.
and I care about them. And that's the only real reason. Otherwise, I won't. I've been bombarded with requests for the last 2 weeks. And it's like, nah,
Yeah.
nah. My work speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You want to do an episode and dedicate it to me and give my biography? Go right ahead. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I don't need to be there. For Gilgo, it's almost done. And the family should have the right to speak for themselves. And I think I've put that out there. The victims don't even belong to me. They belong to their loved ones. And, once this man is sentenced, they all are with their loved ones. They belong to their loved ones. And
I
I've actually reached out and said, if you want me to stop memorializing them, I'm fine with that. Don't feel, you know,
yeah.
bad to tell me. Like, if you don't want me to post their birthday or their angel day, that's fine. That's they belong to you, and I respect those wishes.
That's the whole victim centric uh,
Yeah,
thing that's been lost in a lot of this, and I hope that these families can find some kind of peace, and the ones that are still looking or can hold on to that hope. And there's nothing more
yeah,
powerful than the hope and a sense of peace, and is so intertwined with that person or
yeah,
case that it almost seems like is it that it becomes yours, and you feel some of that pain and you feel that loss. And that my mom would tell me, she said that she just got to a point where she couldn't do anything about it, and she had to hand over because the pain was so great. She had to hand it over to God, and find peace in that, and just find that, um, it's in his hands, is how she put it.
right.
And sometimes you can't carry that grief, and you have to just hold on to that hope, and that in and of itself is healing. And
Yeah, it's self-preservation in a way, because
Mhm.
I can't imagine what she's gone through and how she closes her eyes at night. She should have some peace,
Yeah.
even without the answers, but she puts her faith and her trust in God, and that's what you need.
Yes.
Sometimes that's all you can do to survive.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I support that wholeheartedly.
Hmm.
It's sad that anybody has to go through any of that, and it's disappointing when there's resistance towards progress. And the fight is unique, even though there's so many similarities with Lisa and like the struggle you've gone through and other families. Um, Similarities, a lot of things overlap, and a lot of things are completely unique. And if I could do one thing, it's just I'm a shoulder to lean
Yeah.
on, or an idea to bounce off of, or if you want to scream and curse at me, let it
Hmm.
out. Like, I'm here for that. Um, and I'm just honored to be able to share flyers or care or learn about somebody's life and, you know, talk about the struggles that a family member is
Yeah.
going through and whatever it takes. At the end of the day, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
If I hurt some detective's feelings, oh well.
Sometimes it takes that.
Yeah, like sorry. Like,
Mhm.
did I shatter your ego? Okay, like whatever. Um, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like I know I pissed off a bunch of people in New York City, with the Stacey Reddish case. I know I pissed off Cold Case Squad and Missing Persons Squad, and but she got the report.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's all that matters. I think the first thing they asked her when they were filling out the report is, "How do you know Raul Montero?" And she's like, "What does it matter?"
Right.
And then she's like,
Right.
"What did you do?" I was like,
Yeah.
I don't, it doesn't matter what I did. Like, I
Hmm.
didn't break the law. I just,
Hmm.
I push, I push, I push.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's all that matters. That's
Yeah.
all that matters. You have the case, you have a report now, and she's in the
Yeah.
databases. There's DNA now in the system. Now I can't do anything more than share her flyer, which is what I
Mhm.
do every week myself, and
Mhm.
hope that someone still cares,
Yeah.
in an agency. Not that the family does insane. They love her so much. They miss her terribly. But that's my self-appointed role, and you do things like this out of care
Yes.
because there's no money in it.
Right. We don't get a lot of recognition for it. There's no,
Yeah.
and um, yeah, you did a labor of love. It's a
It
labor
is.
of love.
It
It
truly
truly
is.
is.
And love and frustration and anger, because you
Oh
get
yeah.
angry too.
Oh yeah. Oh
There are
yeah.
times I want to fling my laptop right out the door like a
Oh gosh.
frisbee, but
Mhm.
you know, that's my struggle is nothing compared to what somebody else is going through. So,
Mhm.
you got to keep yourself in check and make sure your barometer is, appropriate, and you
Right.
don't you don't make yourself a bigger victim than a victim.
Yeah. Oh, well, Raul, thank you so much for taking the time um to talk to me and I always enjoy talking to you and listening to you and you just have a unique perspective. You have so much to offer
Yeah.
and I'm so grateful to you and for your friendship and for your support and like my mom says, we call them our angels. We have angels around us who've been and
Yes.
you're one of those angels. So
Oh,
thank you
I
so much.
appreciate that. I
Mhm.
always told my daughter, in a case of crisis, look for the helpers.
Yes.
And that's all, I want to be.
No.
But I adore you. I am
Oh,
so
thank you.
blessed by your friendship, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk with you, as I always am. I just admire you so much. Like
Oh, thank you.
I admire you so much.
Thank
Um, I'm not capable of crying anymore, but
I
almost. I think I did last week, but just a little bit. Can't
I
do it.
s- I struggled too, Raul. I wondered what was wrong with me because I don't, I cried. I think I used up all my tears. There's no more
Yeah,
crying left in me. It's just
yeah.
so every now and then I was in church on Easter Sunday and one lone little tear came down and I said, oh my gosh, I can cry still.
Well, it's true. I was at court, and I was with a couple of close friends, and the one sitting next to me, I teared up, and tears started to come down, and she's like, "Holy shit, you're crying!
Yes.
Finally, you're crying. It's been 2 years." Like, shut up. It's
Yeah.
like, shut
I
up.
know.
Now it's
I,
gone,
there
and
was
I'm
a
not crying.
There was an episode, I don't know if it was Seinfeld, where he starts crying and he says, what's this salty discharge? Because he never cried. And so that's how I started feeling. I'm like, what happened to me?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and that's a sad component of it too, because I was the type when my daughter was growing up, we'd watch, the Barbie movies or Disney movies, and I'm hysterical crying, and she would laugh, like, and I would cry at the drop of a dime. And this case, the Gilgo case, and some of the information that we learned is just so horrific
Mm.
that it changes you. I
Yeah.
feel the empathy inside. I feel the sadness. I feel the welling up of the tears, but then the wall comes down
Yes.
and you just can't do it. And it's not to show a sign of weakness. It's not to show how strong you are.
Mm.
It's because for me, I don't even know. I don't even know how to. It's where I'm
Mm.
speechless. I don't understand why. Empathy like that at that level of crying all the time is something I had with me my entire life.
Mhm.
And in the last 2 years, I don't have it. So it's
Yeah.
like a piece of me not there.
Yes.
Although I feel the same inside. Like I have the same feelings, the same emotions. I get close to that, but I don't.
I think like you were saying, you see some horrible things, you see and
Yeah.
hear some horrible things and experience some ugly things that it changes you in your you kind of
Yeah.
put a little bit of a wall up and that's what I remember, when I would be doing her memorials, I'm like, why am I not crying? Like, why am I not emotional? But there's people around me crying. And of course, you get judged for that too. If you don't cry, well, you
Yep.
can't win for losing. And so, but my mom is breaking down, and crying and like trying to cover her face because I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I? Why can't I? But I just maybe it's just because at that moment I feel like this is I'm always in fighting mode and
Yes.
armor and you got to be strong. You can't show
Yeah.
so in a way I feel that if I'm doing that and my mom is able to have, like you were saying, a safe place where she can feel like she can cry and she's very emotional. Yeah, she's a crier too. And I feel like I have to be the protective one and I have to fight and I have to say,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting how it changes you inside a little bit.
It does. It does.
But well, thank you so much, Raul.
It
And
is my
I'm
deep honor to be here with you.
so glad, so glad. And we will stay in touch and of course, still following your page and sharing flyers as well. And like you said, if something as little as sharing flyers can bring some awareness, that's what we appreciate. So thank
Absolutely.
you for everything.
Of course.
Well, you have a good night. I'm going to go ahead and stop this
Go ahead.
recording real quick.